Marie. Welcome to my podcast.
Hi, Dr. Deb. It's great to see you, and it's great to be here.
Yeah, and you got the biggest smile on your face. And so I don't remember your smile being as big as it is now.
Well, one of the reasons I think why I'm smiling so big is that when I look at my face on this screen, it's actually thinner than the first time I saw you.
And that makes you smile?
Certainly does. Yeah. When I look back on our recorded group sessions when I
Yeah.
was being coached by you, there's a difference. And I
Uh-huh.
can see that, and it absolutely makes me very happy that your program's working well for me.
Wonderful. So that's what we'll do. We'll talk about how it's working for you, what you want to share with people, because you did a group experience with me as opposed to individual coaching. So
I
I,
did.
I love for my listeners to hear, I mean, they're both, in my opinion, they're both wonderful. But since you did the group, you can talk a little bit more about why it was so powerful for you, and yet I teach all the same tools. So I just want to hear a little bit more about your experience, but also, um, like what I remember that I really want you to talk about that I remember very clearly is a phone call that I had with you before you had made the decision
Hmm.
to do the group coaching.
Okay. Yep.
And my memory of that is that you had a lot of doubt about doing it. A lot of doubt and fear.
I did.
So I'd like you to talk about that, because my guess is most people who, I mean, even making that email to me with I'd like to talk to you, because I think we were talking about, I don't know, about money or something. But really it wasn't about money. Really it was about your doubt and confusion, and that's really why you needed the phone call. But I want everybody to know that sometimes people think it's the money, but it's
Hmm.
usually the doubt or the lack of confidence that gets in the way of making a decision. And you're a perfect example of going through this fear and lack of confidence in yourself to actually joining the program. So you want to talk about that a little bit to start out with?
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting because I think it was more fear driven
Yeah.
because I had tried, other programs in the past, and they worked for a while, but then I gained the weight again, and it was more like on a bit of a seesaw with regards to my whole, like just the whole program,
Yeah.
and so I thought to myself, I was fearful that that would happen again, and you're right. I really wasn't. I mean, the money was a consideration, but it really wasn't about the money because I I felt that it was an investment in myself.
Mhm.
Like we invest in other things for personal benefit. And I thought to myself, this is the first time I'm going to step up and really invest in myself. And I had invested in other programs, which were, just really didn't work for me. So that's really, I think, what was driving it, Dr. Deb,
I
was.
think so too.
And so then when I got so fear was one thing, and then it's the courage, to make that call. And I had been listening to your
Yeah.
podcasts, and it was a friend of mine that had referred me on to your podcasts. So I listened to your podcasts for a few months, and then I thought, bloody heck, just do it, just go for it, get the courage to make the call. And I did. I just found my inner strength, and I saw that you offered the a mini session for
Right.
30 minutes, and I thought, I'm going to take full advantage of that and see how it goes.
Hmm.
So I mean, it could have gone either way, but I chose after the end of that session to continue on with you, and I'm so happy I did. I really am. I am delighted that I did, because I honestly think that this is the last time that I will lose weight in my life. This is it. I think I've got it. Now that you're in my head, it's true.
Oh.
You're there. That this will be the last time that I will have to lose weight. I will get to my goal weight, and I will maintain that. So I'm pretty pumped about that. When you see results, it makes it all that worthwhile. And when you mentioned about the group experience,
Mhm.
I tussled a little bit with the group experience because I thought, should I go one on one? Should I go with the group? And then I thought to myself, other experience I've had were with group, and the thing I liked about group was that a lot of the same issues that women have with losing weight. When I listened to the other group members, I thought to myself, that's me. That's me. I'm hearing myself or
Mhm.
some of the concerns that they had. So even though I may not have been being coached at the time, just listening to other people being coached was gave me great solace because I thought to myself, number one, I'm not alone in this journey whatsoever. And a lot of the issues or problems that we face with regards to this are other people have too. So it almost raises your comfort level. It does. At first, it's funny because the first sessions we had,
Yeah,
still a little nervous and I was still a
right.
little hesitant. And, when you asked, um, you know, does anybody want to be coached or not want to be coached? Like you're just kind of shaking a little bit and thinking, oh no, exposure, I'm going to be exposed. But
Right.
then at the end of the session, it was like, pick me.
Uh-huh.
So it was, there was a certain comfort that you provided to everybody within the group that made that sort of broke the ice
Mhm.
and made me really want to be coached by you and also to listen to all of the other group members. It was a really great experience. For somebody that's sort of sitting on the fence, should they go or group or private? I mean, that's a personal decision,
Mhm.
but I would absolutely encourage if someone's thinking about it, and then it may evolve to one-on-one. But for starters, it was really really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, I just wanna go back to the first call again with everything that you're saying is
Mhm.
that I think you were really on the fence until maybe the last 5 or 10 minutes of our call because I was coaching you because you had so much fear
Mhm.
of trying again. And I think what I said to you is, "Well, what's gonna happen for sure if you don't?"
Well, it would be same as it ever was.
Exactly, and I think that just kind of it's like, "You know what? I heard you in that last 5 minutes of that call commit. I just
Mhm.
heard 100% commitment is that I'm gonna do this and I can do it with you.
Yes.
And I want everybody listening to this, and I know that people who were in the group who might be listening to this podcast with you or who were in the group with you
Mhm.
from the first time that I coached you, and this is very, very important, is that your commitment to yourself, like I knew after I coached you in the first group session that you, without a doubt, you were going to get what you wanted because I think you went all in on yourself. And I think when you decide to do that, to have the courage, is what you said, the
Mhm.
courage to go all in on yourself,
Yes.
invest in yourself. And I believe from that minute on, you never looked back. That's the way I saw it.
And I think you're spot on. It's that's exactly how I felt because it was at that point when I said, yes, I'm going to do that, that determination and the tenacity that I had for the
Yes.
program
Yes.
has not dwindled whatsoever. And so yes, you're absolutely right. It was I was on the edge, and then finally I said, that's it. I am going to invest in myself, and I also want a return on my investment. I don't want to. I'm retired now, but I was in business, and when you put something into something, you want to get something back, and it's so important when it's you that's getting or me that's getting the return. And I definitely I got that, and I think I'll have that for the rest of my life. So yeah, you're right. It was, but it's daunting. It's daunting because it's really something that you struggle with almost like, in my opinion, it's like you struggle with all your life, and
Yeah,
all of
you
a sudden,
struggled with it. You
oh,
struggled with it your whole life.
oh yeah, yeah. It's like, oh geez. And so what is good, and then you think to yourself, the fear thoughts are, well, how's this going to be any different? The old mind, gets you thinking negative thoughts. How's this going to be any different? Oh, why is this one going to work? That sort of thing. And you just have to eliminate those thoughts in your mind and just take that leap of faith and do it. Just do it for yourself. And when you get to that point, you never look back. You never look back. All the tools that you provided during our session, I use those to a T. I sent you, on time, all the food journals,
Everything.
the materials that you provide as part of that program. I was committed. And I still use them, even though our group session is over. I'm
I
still
hope so.
using those very much so, because it really helps to stay on track.
Your commitment,
Yeah.
which was 100, I mean, like, I really believe that when somebody is 100% committed, which I believe from the minute I talked to you, you
Mhm.
were, you are, you will be. I heard it in you. This is my last time. Anybody
Yes.
that's listening to this will believe you. You can hear it,
Yeah.
right? And it's a way, and I believe that's what I teach, is how to manage your mind so you can create that type of thinking and those type of emotions inside of you.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I remember about you that I'd love to talk about is that I think it was like in our second group session, and you were telling me how committed you were and all of that, and it was really impressive. And then you said, "And I just want you to know that I'm throwing my scale away." I mean, like, as a point of pride. Like, I'm not weighing myself anymore because I don't have any, that doesn't matter to me. And that
Yes.
turned in, if you remember, and I want everybody
Mhm.
listening because I do a lot of podcasts on the scale.
Oh, yeah.
And that became, I would say that was a theme for you throughout the whole group session, is how you learned how to make peace with the scale and
Mhm.
to use it. And would you want to say just a few things about that? Because everybody listening has something going on with the scale that's not helpful.
Absolutely. The scale for me, I think back, it's kind of funny,
I
but
mean, it was the first, I think it was the second group session.
I think you're right, because it was, as I said, when I look back at it, I laugh because I don't think that way anymore. But yeah, I always looked at the scale as being a more, first of all, I was a bit obsessed with it. I'm a numbers girl. I like numbers. I like playing with numbers. I like looking at numbers. I like analyzing numbers.
Yep.
But that thing was more of an obsession that I would, weigh myself every day, which I don't recommend. Not
I
really.
don't even think it matters. I don't think it
Yeah.
really matters.
No, it doesn't. Doesn't now. But at the time, it
Yes, it
did.
mattered a lot.
Okay. It mattered a lot.
Right. Right.
So anyway, I remember that distinctly, because I thought, I don't want to be obsessed with this anymore. I'm just going to throw it out. I'm going to put it in the garbage. And that
That's
was
what
it.
you said.
Exactly. And then after we spoke, okay,
After I
and
coached you.
after you coached me, yes, after you coached me, it was more of looking at the scale as a tool. It's a source of information, you know? It's a source of accountability. It is it is what it is, And you can't, or I can't, be obsessed with that, because I'm not using it. Using it as an obsession is not the intent at all. I need to think about this as a tool. So after our session, I went out, I got it back, and I actually put it in my dining room. So I have to look at it. I have to look at it. It's there. And I don't mind looking. I'm looking at it right now, and I don't mind looking at it. I look at it now as what I said. It's a tool. It's there's accountability involved, and it also allows me to track my progress, right? And
Right.
so yeah. So look, I've changed my attitude with your coaching. I've changed my attitude towards it, to look at it simply. It's a measurement, and it's a good measurement, and it's an immediate measurement. That's the other thing, is that, if you're trying to, look at a belt buckle, how many rungs you're in on the belt buckle, or sizes, that takes a little longer in order to be able to see results. Now, I have seen results in those other areas of measurement,
Of course.
but the scale is pretty immediate, you know? And in this world of immediate gratification, it's a very, very, as I said, I use it as a useful tool, as
Right.
opposed to friend, as opposed to being a foe, because it was a foe before
That's right.
talking to you. Yeah.
Like I remember like you talking about all the negative emotions that would come up for you
Mhm.
getting on the scale.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think it's this way for a lot of people is that they use it to determine how they're going to feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's, and so if it's up a couple of pounds, like, oh, like you feel, disappointed, and a lot of negativity can come in if it's up, a bit or a lot or whatever. It's just like, oh man, can I do this? And you get very negative thoughts when you think
You
that way
did.
about the scale.
You used to get
Oh
very
yeah.
negative thoughts that
Yeah,
created very negative emotions that
that's
my
right.
guess is created very negative actions
Hmm.
and very
Well,
negative results.
and the biggest negative action was, to heck with it. Yeah, to heck with it. I'm done. I'm done, and that's obviously the action, which is, very unhealthy, not good, not the direction that you want to go in.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of it was a hamster wheel that I needed to get in control of. And as I say, with your help, I look at it completely differently now. If I'm up a little bit, oh well, okay, what did I learn? I think another thing you had mentioned, Dr. Deb,
Yeah.
was about becoming a bit of a detective about yourself, and I still hold that thought that if it's up or if it's down, it's like, okay, so what did I do this week? Or what does it look this week? How do my food journals look to review, what's been done?
Mhm.
And to me, that whole notion of being curious about the
Yes.
number, okay,
Yep.
as opposed to thinking, oh God, the sky's falling. No, it's just being curious about the number. That's what makes a huge difference in what drives my thoughts, in how I feel about it. And then as a result, there it is, sitting in the dining room, there it is. And I'm happy. I'm happy to get on it when I choose to, so
Mhm.
it's a great measure. But yeah, no, that was a huge turning point for me, believe me, because I was daunted. And I have to say too, funny,
Yeah.
in other programs, no names mentioned, when you'd have to go in every week and weigh in, I would like take off my jewelry, like
Me too. Me too.
I take off my belt, I take off my watch. I mean, what's that weigh? An ounce, if that. So
That's
it's like,
how weird we were thinking about the scale. Believe me, sister, I was right there with you. Right?
yeah.
I've been through all this too.
Oh
So,
yeah.
graduating to
Yeah.
realizing the scale is just a tool and really monitoring your own mind around it, I think
Yes.
was a lot of the work that you did in this program.
Yes.
What else would you say? Like, I think that was significant what I saw. What else would you say was significant for you in terms of adjusting your mind? What tools do you think really helped you that you would
One,
share?
sure. Yeah, no, happy to. The one of the tools, well, it's hard to pick because they're all good, but the one in particular is the urge worksheet,
Mhm.
because these urges come on, and they come on when you least expect them. Or I should say, the thoughts come in. um, and using that worksheet, from an unmanaged thought to a managed thought, really helped me put urges, or the thoughts that were driving the urges. It really helped me put that into perspective. Okay.
Mhm.
So another thing that I've really, really learned, and I attribute to your coaching, is all around um, recognizing it as opposed to acting on it.
Ooh,
Okay.
Yeah.
So you recognize the urge to have, let's say, in my case, it was always to have something sweet, you know?
Oh, I remember that. I remember
Remember
that. We
that
can
one?
talk about that in a minute. Yes, go ahead.
Remember that one?
I
Okay. Yeah.
do.
It was like, okay. But it was that urge to have something sweet. And I just think back, it was like growing up, we always had something sweet after a meal as a family. And it was almost like a bad habit. Even though you were completely satisfied with your meal, and maybe even more so, you still look for that, or I still look for that something sweet. And so that really, really helped me put it into perspective. Number one, recognize, to say, okay, yes, I'm having an urge. And so I'd write it down, what I was thinking at the time, unmanaged. And then the managed thought allowed me to overcome the urge and put it into its proper perspective when I started to make the connection between my mind,
Yeah.
my brain, and my body. Because when you make that connection, you realize I don't want something sweet. I'm completely satisfied. Um, that's it. It's as simple as that. Move on. Do something else. Because and what I found is over time they've become less and less. When we did the no flour no sugar, I'm still doing that. So when we did that no flour no sugar experiment,
Hmm.
uh, the urges I found were quite strong the first couple of weeks,
Yeah.
but then they started to dissipate over time as I used my urge worksheets. And now I still get urges, for sure. I still get urges, but I don't allow them to make me act the way I did prior to being on your program, which was, you feel the urge, you just do it, not even thinking. It makes you think. And yeah, I refuse, not, I refuse to do it now because I recognize what it is for what it is. And then when you really talk to yourself about that and see how you feel, you really realize that you don't need that. You really don't.
Wow. And when you so I want to just qualify this a little bit for people who may not know what you're talking about, but
Okay.
I think it's really important is that when we talk about an urge worksheet and we talk about urges,
Hmm.
that an urge is really just emotional hunger
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
negative emotion and it
Negative
comes
emotion.
from a thought.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so what you're saying is that one of the thoughts that created strong negative emotion for you or strong urges was the thought that I want something sweet.
Hmm.
That was what we call an unmanaged thought. It's like you just thought because it's there, you're thinking it must be true, as opposed to, no, it's just something I've been thinking for so long, it just comes up without me even knowing it's there, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Automatic thinking.
Yeah.
And so you sent me an email, I think, about, well, what do we do about this, wanting something sweet? Like you just
Yes.
thought it was a fact about life is that you like to eat something sweet at the end of a meal, as opposed to, no, it's just something that you were thinking that was creating the feeling to want to eat it.
Correct.
And once you recognize that I want something sweet is just a sentence in your head, it's just a thought, then you knew that you can manage it with a managed thought, which is what were some of the thoughts that you would use instead of I want something sweet?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I even say that to this day,
Yeah.
when I do get an urge,
Yeah.
that I say to myself, this is just a thought. So that's, recognizing that it's an urge. It's like this is just a thought. And
Yeah.
then you do the brain body connection, and then you come up with a better thought. I mean, I can give you a couple of examples of some of my work, some of the things that I've come up with, because I've got my binder, my Dr. Deb binder here, if you'd like, you know.
Yeah, well, I just think that like one of the, because I think a lot of people have the same unmanaged thought is that I
Oh
want
yeah.
something sweet. So
Yes.
what are some of the thoughts, the managed thoughts that you now think instead when that
Okay.
urge comes up?
Well, the first one is that this is just a thought in my head. This is not a physical need. It is just
Yeah.
a thought that's popping up in my mind. That's what I think
Yep.
when I want something sweet. It's like,
Yeah.
do I really want something sweet? Not really.
Yeah.
It's just a thought. There's nothing It's nothing else other than that. And it's kind of like trying to break a bad habit. Because I think that's what it kind of was for me, was just a bad habit of having habitually having something sweet after a meal. That was just, that's how you finish the meal. It's like,
But in
really?
reality, all it really was a habitual thought
Yeah,
that created an urge
yeah.
that was rewarded
Oh, rewarded many times.
many times, which became cyclical
Hmm.
in your brain.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and using the urge worksheet, I hope as people can hear, is that you learned how to break that cycle by thinking something different, but truly believing the new thought. And
Hmm.
at the same time, and you can say something about this, you also learn how to feel these things without having to act on them.
Hmm.
No, it's kind of allowing it to kind of go through.
Well, that's true. And I think that um, what I feel when I get an urge to have something sweet, and I
When you
recognize
think
that,
something that says, I want
yeah,
something sweet, and you
that I
feel
want
the
something
urge.
sweet,
Uh-huh.
when the urge arises,
Mhm.
I recognize that all it is a thought. And what I find is that if you just sit with that, so you just sort of sit with that, and then eventually the urge goes away, and you just, I feel empowered by just sitting with it and letting it dissipate, and not acting on it, just to sit with it, to recognize that I'm having an urge. Okay, I'm having an urge. And then when you don't act on it, it's really a feeling of empowerment you
Yeah.
get, that I can do this. That was
Mhm.
just a thought. I have thousands of thoughts in my head every day. Do I act on all my thoughts? No. But when you do, when you resist, or, just sit with that thought, and then you don't do anything, or you don't act on it, it's like, hey, I can do this. I can do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let my, you know, thought make me do something that I will regret later, that will give me the result, give me the action and the result that I do not want.
I'm telling you, you could do my podcast for me. You could teach. You are preaching my words. And it's so beautiful to see it come out of you. So, like, I know that this is just the way you think now. I know
It
that
is.
your brain is transformed. Not only is your body transformed,
Mhm.
but your brain is transformed. And I hope everybody can hear that you were not like this in the beginning. You didn't talk like this, you didn't think like this. That you have done the work with the tools that I have taught you how to do that. And that your commitment, that commitment you had from day one, is what got you here. Right? Because I'm sure some of it was difficult. I can't imagine it was just an easy ride.
No, no, it's not an easy ride. What you've said is the God's honest truth. And it's not an easy ride, because you've been doing it or I've been doing it for
Yes.
so long,
Hmm.
and so you really have to break that cycle of thinking. And when Dr. Deb is in your head, then it really helps to break that cycle of thinking that was going on for years.
Hmm.
And I think of the days of when I worked. I traveled a lot, and I was eating out in restaurants a lot, and receptions,
Hmm.
and meetings, and there was just the best of everything. And you just like give into it. If I was working now, okay, if I was working now, not a chance. Like, I would recognize those urges within myself and just say, yeah, it's just a scone, or just a croissant, or whatever the hell it is, and just recognize it's nothing other than what it is, and I don't need it. I really don't. So yeah, no, that your coaching was invaluable for me, to be able to recognize that. It just seems such like an elementary thing, but until you actually start to work it and change the habit,
Yeah.
and and which is about changing your way of thinking,
Hmm.
then it becomes real.
Obviously, it is
Yeah,
real. We're hearing it
yeah,
coming out of your mouth, the reality of what you've
yeah.
learned. It's just amazing to me, and it makes me so happy that I get to do this work, to work with women like you who are so committed to
Hmm.
themselves to do this and to be able to get what you're getting out of this. And what I would like you to talk about just a little bit is you said that this is going to be the very last time that you ever have to do this again.
Yes.
What would you say to anybody else that's listening to this podcast that for sure is where you were, for sure has done this many, many times before and are a little afraid? What would you say to them after your experience?
I would say that it's this experience working with you changed my mindset. It really changed my mindset.
Mhm,
And it made me recognize things that I had been doing for many, many years weren't serving me well.
mhm.
So that to me would be absolutely, number one, mindset change.
Yep.
And the other thing that goes through my mind is, when some of our first, I think in our very first class or first and second class, we worked upon our compelling reason.
Yeah.
And once you have that branded or imprinted in your mind, I go back to that compelling reason. And that also gives me the motivation and just to give me the reason why I did this right from the get-go, and it was I want to be at peace with myself around food, and then you added the no matter what. Okay. So I think of that often. That's a thought that goes in my mind, especially if I'm feeling a little bit of an urge coming on. I think of
Exactly.
that. I think of that. And it really helps me, stay the course on on what I'm attempting to do. And as I said, I'm seeing the results, but it's so many times it's like it's just really all about what's in your head. It's what your thoughts are and how your thoughts really drive some what I would, as you say, sort of negative emotions that drive you to do things that you get results that you don't want. And once you recognize that,
Yeah.
then you think, okay, I'm on a new path here because I feel like I'm in control of my thoughts. Before, I don't think I was.
And you know what's interesting when you say that is most people and want to come in because they say they're not in control of food,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I can't control myself around food. But
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying, and I just want to clarify for everybody, is that when you can control your mind,
Mm-hmm.
which is what you have experienced,
Yes,
what you put in your mouth changes
totally.
totally.
Yeah, totally. Because that's one thing is we have the power to choose. We have the power to choose.
Hmm.
And when you have the right mindset about your choices and what your goals are and your aspirations are in life, when you have that power of choice with the right mindset, then you're able to accomplish your goals.
And I would say that like you get to create what you want.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the freedom that we have to do. You can either choose to do what's right for your body, or you choose not to. I mean, it's to me, but it takes a while until you get to that thought process that you do,
Yeah, that you
um,
do.
that I do have that I have that freedom of choice.
Yeah.
And when you make the right choice for yourself, it feels so much better. It just does. And it makes you, it's motivating to continue to make that choice. Another thing I think about too is like I love to bake. I'm a baker. I'm a cooker. Anybody come over to Marie's place for dinner? Yes, nobody's ever said no. I love to cook, and I used to, I used to laugh about, I call them BLTs, bites, licks, and tastes. So you'd be having a little taste of this, a little taste of that as things were going on. And then I'd finally get to the meal. I really wasn't hungry. It's like, what the hell? What's with the BLTs?
The
Now,
BLTs.
okay.
Yeah.
Now it's like, no, I don't do that anymore. I know that what I'm doing when I'm cooking or whatever, I know it's going to be good. I don't need to taste things all along. I really don't. So,
I love the BLTs. And what I love even more, because I think I talk to a lot of people that say, well, listen, I love to bake and I love to cook.
mhm,
And that's the reason why I have a weight problem, because
mhm,
I love to eat and I love to cook and I love it. And I want you to say, because you love to do all that. And
I
yet,
do.
how much weight have you lost?
Over 20 pounds now.
Okay, over 20 pounds. And are you still cooking and baking and having people over? And okay,
I sure am.
so you can still do all of that and eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full and choose fuel food and be mindful about joy eats. Yeah.
I can, because that's the other thing I've come out with from this program is that, okay, I'm not focusing so much on the food. I'm focusing on the friends and the family and the people and the social and the conversation and what's everybody been up to, as
Mhm.
opposed to focusing entirely on the food. Sure, the food is I've prepared it. It's okay and it's good and people enjoy it, but that's not the main focus. And I think before it was for me,
Mhm.
it was like, oh, everything has to be so perfect, and it's still good, but it's I have it in the right perspective now, and that makes a huge difference moving forward. I still have my passion for cooking and baking.
Exactly.
I
That's
still
what I want everybody to
yeah,
see. It's like if
that
you
hasn't
love
gone away.
yeah, if you love to bake or you love to cook, you can bake and cook and eat
Mhm.
accordingly. I
Yeah,
think that and I think maybe you brought it in the beginning is you thought, well, since I love to do all this, I have to eat it
yeah,
and I have to overeat it or I have to do it like the two go together.
yeah,
And they
yeah.
don't.
They don't.
They
No,
don't.
not at all. It's the same thing as actually, if you go to a restaurant, it's the same concept where, you don't really have to eat everything that's on that plate. And nowadays, everybody, if you can't eat it, then you can take it home if you want, or they can throw it out, whatever. But it's more focusing on the people and the social and the camaraderie, and that's what it's all about. The food is just the stage, but you really want to be with the actors.
I love all your concepts. And once
Yeah.
again, before we end, I want you to just
Okay.
say one more time what your compelling reason is. And I want everybody to hear it and I just want to connect it up a little bit. So what's your compelling reason?
My compelling reason is I want to be at peace with myself around food, no matter what.
Well, it sounds to me like you have accomplished that.
I believe I have. Yes.
Everything. If people are listening to this podcast and they're listening to you, you can see from what you're saying that you have those actions and results based on that thought.
Correct.
And, the reason we come up with a compelling reason is because most people think their compelling reason is to fit in smaller clothes or just to lose a certain amount of weight. Like that should be compelling. And what I want you to know is like, I know you want to lose weight and you are losing weight, but what's compelling you is this thought about wanting to have peace around food. And that's what's compelling you, I think, and you can tell me where I'm wrong, to use the tools that I taught you to use them in a way that gives you that.
Well, there's no question the tools support the compelling reason.
Mhm.
And my recommendation to anybody listening to this is that you really need to work on your compelling reason to really make it make sense for you, and something that you can go back to. It's almost like it's not almost, it's another tool that
Right.
you can use to stay the course,
Mhm. Mhm.
because yeah, you don't want it too wordy or what the heck, a paragraph. No, it's got to be crisp, concise, to the point, and then it becomes a tool. I use it all the time. especially when urges happen, you know?
Yep.
'Cause they
Listen
do.
up, everybody. Listen up. Listen up to
Yeah,
Rosemarie telling you
yeah,
like it is.
yeah.
So, is there anything else that you want to add before we end our podcast today? Because I could talk to you all day long, but is there anything else that you want to add or anything else that you would like to say to our listeners out there?
Well, sure, I think that, when we had our last class, I was, you had one of the exercises was having a vision of yourself. And and what I envision myself doing and being. And I found that that is something that I look forward to living that vision
Mhm.
of being a certain size and having one size in my closet. And you just have to really, you got to stick with it. I like the whole notion of you got to be all in. I was all in right from the, after our mini session. I was all in on this. And believe me, when you're all in on it, it's going to work for you.
Thank you so much for being on my podcast, Marie. It was
Oh,
wonderful.
you're more than welcome. It's great to see you again. Really,
Yes.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, okay.